we've got Dominic, who's come from Liverpool John Moores University. Dominic was actually presenting at a Sitecore event, I believe it last week in New Orleans. So it's great to have Dominic here. Dominic's going to be talking to you about getting started with web personalization. Dominic is a Sitecore customer. I appreciate that. It would actually be good to just have a show of hands. How many of you are a fan of Sitecore or use Sitecore? Okay, so not that many. So that's good news. We're not going to be, I believe we're not going to be delving too deep into Sitecore. We'll be touching on it.
Well, yeah, I guess we need to explain it.
We'll probably give you a bit of background as to what Sitecore is and how we use it. I mean, Four Roads is a digital agency. We're based here in the Midlands, and we've been working with the Sitecore platform for 3 or 4 years. But you know, from our perspective, we're very much just hosting the event. So what we'll do is Paul will start with his presentation. We'll have a Q&A. We'll then give you guys the opportunity to have a short 5-minute, 10-minute break. Obviously, please help yourselves to any food out there, drinks, there's orange juice, squash, and then we'll come back in and we'll listen to obviously Dominic's presentation, which once again I think will be sort of 30-40 minutes with a Q&A session afterwards. All right, well, thanks again for coming, and I hope you enjoy the presentations.
Great, thank you, James. Well, very good evening to you. So, a show of hands again. How many people are Sitecore customers already or users?
There we go, not many.
None. Is that one apart from the top review? Okay. Well, that's interesting because this is a Sitecore user group. So maybe you're all prospective users of it. Anyway, so let me introduce myself. So, as James said, my name is Paul Fennimore, and I am a digital marketing consultant with Sitecore. So my job is to work with clients and prospective clients from anything in terms of helping them understand the art of the possible when it comes to digital marketing, through to making sure that those possibilities become a reality. So I'm really focusing on digital marketing as a subset of the overall marketing strategy. So I will work with clients in collaboration, quite often with partners that John's worked for, on helping to formulate a digital marketing strategy, or just to actually validate what that might be, through to then putting perhaps that, correlating the capabilities of technology, people, process and technology to that marketing strategy and how that drives the overall business objectives. Also, I work a lot on nowadays, I probably spend about 60% of my time on this, putting an ROI case together with clients, because I've got an ROI modeling tool which is completely agnostic and it's very forensic and it's designed to get past the scrutiny of the most skeptical CFO, financial director. So if you're looking to put together a financial proposition to your board of directors or your chief stakeholders within your organisation, that we've got this tool, which I can coach you on, you can use it, and then you can use it to objectively present a business case for the right levels of investment in the people, process and technology for your digital stuff. I'm also, if you check my LinkedIn profile, you'll see that I'm also an associate lecturer at Oxford Brookes University, so I coach, or teach, I suppose is the correct word, master's students on digital marketing specifically. And they keep me honest, because they're normally very bright guys. Probably, if I'm really true about this, I probably learn more from them as I do they do from me, to be honest. So, but anyway, it keeps me honest, and I learn a lot from them. So today, I thought I'd cover something. I'm not going to go into Sitecore in any great detail, although we've got people in the room who probably don't know too much about Sitecore. Who's heard of Sitecore previously? Alright, okay, so I need to go reinvent my presentation this minute, I think, probably, so I can do some content setting for you. It's probably not relevant for this particular presentation, but I'm going to give you an idea a bit later on about as to what Sitecore does, or a digital marketing platform does. But what I am going to be covering today is this topic of agile marketing. So this is a concept that, you know, there's no such thing as a new idea, I suppose. And about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, I was thinking organisations really need to be agile. They need to be able to react against the prevailing marketing circumstances that are prevailing at any given one time. We have to react to those in the moment. What Sitecore does as an agile marketing platform is enable organisations to be able to respond according to prevailing training conditions that are operating at any one particular time. That's the value that it generates, really. So I thought that agility, which is a concept, anybody been in IT? Anybody here works in IT? Yeah, so you know all about agile IT product development. So what I've done is take the same principles and processes of agile software development and applied it to marketing. It should be interesting to get your feedback on that. So I really got excited to think that I'd come up with a new idea or a new book and paper for me to write, and then I googled it and realised that 100 other people thought of it already, so here you go. So I've taken their views, added my views to it, and I will share it with you here today. Yeah? So why is it important? So I'm going to talk about strategy mainly today, not about technology. Hopefully that's a good thing about strategy, because without strategy then the technology is pointless and there's often a disconnect between the two. Why is it important? It's because nothing remains the same. And we know that in the last 20 years, about 70% of the Fortune 1000 companies in the US now don't exist. So to think that the world is constant, to think that your organisation is going to be there permanently, even if you're a university, I have to say, because there's new entrants coming into the market all the time, there are digital disruptors happening and affecting your business as we speak that could put you out of business. So not all of those, 70% of those 1,000 companies went out of business, they were acquired, but certainly, or they were integrated into another organisation or merged. But there was a problem, they now don't exist. So we can't afford to be complacent, so what we need to do is to make sure that we are an agile organisation, not just in terms of IT implementation, but agile responding to the prevailing market conditions that are happening from one moment to the next. So I'm going to talk you through how we might go about doing that. But because I'm an academic, I try and substantiate my argument with evidence-based research. So McKinsey, obviously a trusted advisor in the consulting world, did some research last year, and apparently 75% of all you guys in marketing are increasingly concerned about more agile competitors, people who are able to respond with elastic pricing. If you're in consumer goods, or if you're in insurance, or if you're in finance, you need to be able to modify and adjust your prices from one moment to the next. Elasticity, how do you do that? And if you don't do it, you're going to lose business, a lot of business, and you need to be able to respond to that. So according to McKinsey, organisations, whether it's B2B or whether it's B2C, are concerned about this, increasingly so. And it's not hardly surprising because the consumer, as we know, and I know that you know this, so I'm just doing a bit of context setting for you. We've got this issue on this opportunity of the agile consumer who's much better informed than they ever were. They communicate with your brand, your product, your services, your organisation through I don't know how many different channels. I stopped counting up to about 40. So they're much better informed, they're armed to the teeth with technology, and they've moved away from this traditional old-fashioned consumerism model to actually being informed. And they can make informed decisions from one moment to the next based upon how they feel the information they've got. And they're not interested in what brands say anymore. They're more interested in word of mouth from other consumers or word of mouth. So we know that, you know that already. And my argument is that we need to be able to respond to that, and those companies that do will be the ones that survive in the next 20 years, then we'll go business like those others I mentioned earlier on. So these agile consumers need you to be able to respond to their agility. That's what's driving it. Thing is that's good news, but now we've got to go even faster. So nothing really nothing really is standing still in our world of digital marketing. That's why I love it, because it keeps us on our toes. Yeah. So anybody heard of WeChat? You've heard of WhatsApp? Yeah. So would you like to explain what that is, what it is, what it does?
WeChat.
Yeah. How long has it been going for?
The normal one's been going on, but it's a Chinese social media channel.
Right.
And we do use it for our Chinese audiences.
Excellent. So which line of business are you in?
University.
University. So you would definitely use WeChat for attracting and engaging with Chinese students. So WeChat has been around for about 5 years. If you think things are slowing down, Facebook has done it and nailed it, and so has Twitter and WhatsApp. WeChat started 5 years ago. How many users have they got on it? A billion. How many of those are active? 700,000. You can do anything. It's a mobile app, by the way, just to get that right. You can do anything on it. You can do micropayments. You can book a doctor's appointment. You can pay for things on it. I can transfer money to you via WeChat. There's nothing you cannot do on it. And their mission statement is to take over the world, to actually nail people like Facebook and other WhatsApp, similar mobile applications. So my point here is that we've got to go even faster, we've got to keep up to speed with that, and if you weren't using WeChat, then you won't be engaging with the Chinese audiences. So it's difficult. It's difficult.
Especially Facebook being banned there.
Yes, Facebook's not. So why do you think Facebook's banned there, by the way?
Well,
It's a political issue.
Yeah, but isn't
Salty, yeah.
economics as well.
Economics, yeah.
Isn't Zuckerberg actually liaising with the president to actually work out a system that is compatible with the right firewall?
Well, you know, it's political. The reason why Facebook isn't there in China is because China don't want American companies coming into their country and making a lot of money and it going back into America. That's the bottom line. Also, they want to have control over the discourse amongst their citizens. But that's not the main reason. I teach a lot of Chinese students, and that's where I learn this stuff from. Yeah.
I believe it goes first of all because of censorship in China, because they have big Chinese firewalls, it's called. So,
Yeah.
And they just want some information that people should not see.
There is that element of that as well, but it's not as much as I think. You've probably been out there talking to you earlier on. It seems to me you're an international guy. But it's not so much about that. I think it's principally about the fact that the Chinese government don't want big American corporations invading their economy, sucking out loads of money like Google and Facebook do in the UK, not paying their taxes. Anyway, don't get me on high horse about that one. Also, automation. So we've got to be able to automate a lot. In order to be able to be agile, rather like organisations implemented accounting systems and ERP systems a few years ago, they took out a lot of overheads, they took out a lot of process by putting in software, ultimately, systems that took away some of the overheads of an organisation, enabled organisations to actually run much more cost effectively, arguably. And they have done. And we take ERP systems for granted now, and accounting systems, don't we? We won't go back to manual processes, will we? No. So the same principles apply to digital marketing. So we need to be able to automate. So also what we need to be able to do is to have that information, that insight as to what's going on with our customers, our ecosystem in which we're operating, with our market, with our competitors, and to be able to navigate from one moment to the next and be ready for that before it even happens, for a bump in the road, for something that changes from one moment to the next, to be able to trim your sails to the prevailing weather conditions as you navigate the seas of digital marketing in your marketplace. And if you can't do that, then you're going to get left behind. So this is the reality of where we are at the moment, guys, and we needed the solution to be able to nail this. Sounds like a challenge. So agility is one way of making it happen. It's a new concept, really, for most organisations to embrace. I think that it's kind of using project management. Most project management has a methodology called waterfall. Who's familiar with waterfall? Yeah, it's a linear process. We're going to do this, and then we can do that, we're going to do that, and that's our expected outcome perhaps in 2 years' time. So we need to change that one extent and have a different way of working. So I'm going to come to that in a moment. So agile marketing from the consumer's point of view, because if it's not serving the consumer, that agile consumer, then what's the point of doing it? So obviously it's about contextual information, the right context, at the right time, the right place, the right device, the right moment, according to that person's persona, their psychographics and their demographics and their social graphics and weather graphics. I'm going to test you on graphics later. That's market segmentation down to really a forensic level, but that's what systems can do today. We need to know our customers, not only their demographics, but their psychographics across all these different touch points. We can do this, and it can be done, and it's cost effective to be done. But you do need the people, process, and technology to operate at that velocity, fine. So in terms of the methodology, in terms of adopting agile marketing, and I do know companies who started to do this. In fact, I was talking to somebody the other day, actually UCAS, the clearing organisation for the universities. They adopted agility when it came to developing their IT systems, and I explain agility in that concept in a moment. And now what they're doing is systemically implementing the concept of agility throughout the whole of their organisation, including the way that they engage with universities and their whole ecosystem in which they operate, their sponsors, executives, and so on and so forth. So this is in terms of project management, the way that people operate, this is a conventional way that people tend to work. And I've seen this with marketing strategies. Who has a digital marketing strategy? Great. So yeah, I mean, well done, guys. Have you got executive buy-in for your digital strategy? Is it something they sit around and talk about when they have a board meeting?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
before it even kicks off, as you
Right.
said, we've got to make sure that there's consensus, but at the same time, our needs and their needs come together.
Right, okay. Which line of business are you in?
Digital marketing and an agency.
Are you an agency?
Multidisciplined.
Okay, alright, fine. So you would hopefully be adopting this approach, yeah, good for you. You know, what do they call eating your own dog food or some horrible expression like that? Okay.
I can say for my previous company I used to work in, called Vitality House. You probably know them by advertising big dark stand stock. So they have entire department of digital marketing, and they take things very serious there. And people have basically 5 to 10 strategies of development of digital marketing well ahead for 2-3 years. So it's like a branch and saying, if this goes well, we can do A, if not B, if not C, if not this branch, then we go another branch. So it's like a chess game.
Perfect.
This is something what they have.
Thank you. So you've kind of done my work for me by explaining what agility in terms of marketing is all about, because what it tends to be, I know I'm exaggerating when I talk about it in this term, in this context here, but this is what tends to happen. Is if somebody comes along and you get a new CMO come on board or whatever it may be, and they come up with this big grand plan. Yeah, familiar? Yeah, okay. And then somebody does some research to make sure they're going about it the right way, and they kick it off, and they do a bit of review and they measure the outcome, and then they have the next big strategy. What they then tend to do is, rather than doing the research maybe a year later, they go back to their old research, so they're having a strategy based upon out-of-date data. This tends to happen. It's not quite black and white like this, but this is not untypical. And then they have the next big strategy, and over they go. And that's when organisations find that they've probably lost their competitive edge or whatever it is they're trying to do as an organisation. Whereas agile marketing is this iterative process. I know this is not a pretty slide. I don't know how to make this look pretty, but I'm not bothered about that either. So quite often you might have a big game plan in terms of what you're trying to do as an organisation, but you break it down into small strategies. And then what you do is you iterate, plan it, research it, nurture it, measure it, and it's an ongoing cyclical process. And it's not something you review every year or every 6 months, it's something you might review every day. You have an agile team every day. And you get these insights and you adjust it and trim it, and you have this ongoing iterative learning curve. Let's learn, let's understand what this is all about. And to do that, you need to be a data-driven company. You need to have your digital marketing system sucking in all this information about what's going on in an objective way. It's not just using Google Analytics, other systems and tools that you get within Sitecore as an example, that shows you things like conversion values, customer journeys, bounce rates, what's working and what isn't working. So you can tune and adjust immediately on the fly from one day to the next. And then off you go. And if it's not really working after a given period of time, as you just indicated, if it's not working, you've got the information because you've got the insights, this data to say, let's go off and do something else before it's too late. And it requires courage as an organisation to be agile, because you're going to make crunchy decisions. It requires accountability because employees don't necessarily like turning up at Scrum meetings, because that's what they are, every morning or every week, to say, what, you agreed to do this last week, where are you now with it this week? They feel more accountable, and they don't like that. But you know, UCAS, I spoke to them how they felt about doing it, because they have these Scrum meetings. Now, it's not project planning meetings, they're called Scrums. And they like it. Employees feel more empowered. They feel as though they're able to get off their chest the problems they have, and actually it turns out to be a healthy, productive, fruitful environment for employees rather than one that is threatening. Interesting that, isn't it? You would have thought it'd be the reverse, but it's not. Turns out people like it. So some of the things that define agile versus a typical linear process of project management is that you can't read this very well. That you do things, you have somebody who is a Scrum Master, they're not a project manager necessarily. A Scrum Master in the context of agile marketing is somebody who's responsible for making sure that whatever you're doing from one week to the next is aligned to marketing and business objectives and operational imperatives, that there's an ROI. Not that you've done something on time and tick a box, and whether it's red, green or amber traffic light system, none of that stuff. Is it delivering return on investment? Will it deliver return on investment? Is it aligned to our corporate objectives? Or do we need to change things? That's what the Scrum Master is. And you do things in that's a sprint. I need to change that slide. And a sprint is short bursts of activity, a week, 2 weeks, not a month, a year. That's what we, so as you can see, it requires a different approach. And then you've got things like polymath